Hello and welcome to Chronological Clone Wars, presented by the Podawakens, part of the Logjam Media podcast and network. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, on his first watch of the Clone Wars, my second, is Logan. How are you today, Logan?
Jordan, I might have to start taking out your friends, Ron and what is it, Ron, Jack, is it Chris? Is Chris
Yes.
really? Might have to because they. I don't like how powerful that they are becoming under your tutelage. So I might have to.
Jealous of how many podcasts they've been on.
Yep, I only see a rise of power, and you're threatening to my reign over the Logjam Media podcast. So
Yes. Well, we are talking Nightsisters, Monsters, Witches of the Mist, which is a great arc about destroying Padawans, apprentices of the dark side. Not really Jedi Padawans, but yes, this was a really fun week of episodes. I watched these literally right before we started recording, and I remember watching these for the first time and being pretty amazed by them. And guess where I was watching those? It was just like the Quinlan Voss episode. I was on my college program in my apartment
I love that.
watching these episodes. It's weird that I can remember that 9 years later. Like, oh, I remember watching this like in my apartment.
TV shows and movies have always done that to me. Like you
Yeah,
could probably name
music
some
too.
TV
I can
shows.
remember
Yep,
first time listening to certain music.
yep. Video games, like where I was playing, which apartment or which house, what memories I have, what time of year there was. Like I just have, yeah. I think we all grab onto those, right? Things that we absolutely love or adore, and
The
you want to
biggest one
remember
is
where
I
you were.
remember I remember playing Pokemon Yellow outside on a spring day,
Hmm.
like on my porch and on my backyard deck.
Hmm.
And anytime I think about Yellow or like play it at times, it brings me back to that day. It was
Yeah.
like probably 70 degrees, 75 degrees, a light breeze rolling in.
Yep.
I'm like 10 years old. It was great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like every time it comes around to this time of year, like I think of like my trips down here to see you guys during your program before I came
Yeah.
down, like that the smell and stuff like of spring coming to Florida. I
The car's covered with
Yeah,
pollen. Yeah.
love that. Yeah, love that. Shoes covered in it. Jordan, I walked in the other day, my like the whole bottom sole of my shoe is yellow, like because
That's
of
what I noticed like when we were on our drive down. Like
yeah.
I would stay we like stayed the night in Savannah and we stayed the night in North
Hmm.
Carolina. In each of those days, waking up and like the car is covered green and everybody's
Yep.
car is covered green. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, it is not a fun time right now if you got bad allergies. Mine are very pick and choose. Like it picks when it wants to flare up, and sometimes it doesn't bother me, but there are times, man, it just kills me.
Mm. All right. Well, we are talking, like I said, Nightsisters, Monster, Witches of the Mist. Nightsisters, we'll start with that. Directed by Giancarlo Volpe, written by Katie Lucas. Premiered January 7th, 2011 on Cartoon Network. Disney Plus synopsis. Count Dooku is commanded to eliminate Asajj Ventress. I tell you, this episode is jam-packed. This thing moves so quick because we start off with this. Asajj is leading an attack. Palpatine calls Dooku and he's like, your apprentice is getting a little too strong. Take her out. And during this, Obi-Wan and Anakin are having this space battle, right? Like Obi-Wan gets hit. Anakin shoots Ventress' ship. They land inside the command ship. Ventress is calling for help, and Dooku's like, you failed me for the last time. You're no this is his exact words here. You are no longer my apprentice, and now you shall die. And he didn't want to do this. He did kind of
Yeah.
push Palpatine a bit where he's like, and Palpatine pulled the the Sith do this, right? The Sith have the rule of two, which is where they have a master and apprentice. And if this is technically not supposed to be Dooku's apprentice, this is just supposed to be an assassin. And that's what Palpatine's worried about. He's worried about, you're going to take me out and you're going to take over and you're going to have Asajj Ventress as your apprentice. I'm putting a stop to that. Prove that you're loyal to me so I don't die. This is pretty much what Palpatine is doing. And Dooku pushes back, and when he's like, hey, this doesn't mean you're taking me out, right? And then Palpatine, that's what Palpatine's saying, and Dooku's like, damn it, I guess I can't blow my cover. I gotta do this. I gotta take out Ventress. Um, so they have a little bit of a lightsaber battle on here, and Ventress is even gonna force choke both of them. She has the upper hand
Yeah, that was wild.
until Dooku has the guns turned on the command ship to take both the Jedi and Asajj out, and this is what the Jedi are able to kind of regain control and continue the battle. What was your thoughts here with this opening, which moves like super fast?
I couldn't believe how quickly it escalated. It went from like, they're okay with Asajj, and then all of a sudden Palpatine's like, no, you got to kill her. I was like, wow, this is intense. But then I was like, man, this is going to lead to some really good episode. And then I had seen IMDb, so I'd seen a person that kind of for the next episode looks like Darth Maul. And I'm like, is this
Yes.
when Maul re-enters the? But I was like, what is happening? But then I'm like, Nightsisters, I know them from Fallen Order, so I'm going, oh, this is gonna be really good. And especially with how quickly, when an episode starts this quickly, you're like, okay, like they've had a lot to fit in. It won't, there's not a lot of exposition to this. They had to get right into the action. And man, within the
Right.
first minute and a half, I'm like, all right, so we're killing Asajj Ventress. Dooku's got to, stay loyal to Palpatine, but you know that when Asajj isn't killed, that it's going to lead to some more, I think, angst between the two. So yeah, and Asajj is crazy. Like she's she just reacts. She doesn't really think through things. So
Yeah. She's a very interesting character. At some point, Obi-Wan and Anakin have her unarmed, and then again, like a ship comes flying in, and they have to. They're like, "Let's get out of here. We're getting out of here." And Asajj is able to escape as well. And of course, the droids scan the command ship after it blows up, and are like, "No survivors." So Dooku takes us to think that Asajj Ventress has died. Asajj is picked up by scavengers, and she says she wants to go to Dathomir. And they're like, "Why would you want to go there?" And then she just like kills all four of them. She's like, "Boom!" Really badass. But she goes to Dathomir, which was her home world. The Nightsisters surround her, and we see Mother Talzin. Ventress faints, and then we kind of get her full flashbacks, full story here, where uh, we see her get taken from her people. It's not very clear in this, but it's clear in other ancillary material. The first master she's talking about that dies is her slave master. She gets sold into slavery here at the beginning of her young life. After she's crying over that master that dies, she is being saved by a Jedi named Kai Narek. We see her training him, um, training her. Then he dies, right? And she kills the person that killed him. She kind of falls to the dark side during this. Dooku then takes her as an apprentice, and we kind of see again the last moment we just saw of her being rejected by Dooku at the end here. What did you take for this? Did you know that she was at once a Jedi Padawan and being trained in the ways of the Force?
had no idea. So it was interesting whenever that was um, presented, just because I mean, when you think about it, it's like, okay, I guess it makes sense because she is whenever it's just full on Sith, it feels like they're not as calculated, whereas Jedi are much more calculated and assassin like. So I think it makes sense. She does seem to have an upper hand when it comes to thinking things through, and I think she's got. I don't know. She seems to have a wherewithal of what's going on and more aware of what her situation is. But I think that's all because of her Jedi training that she's obviously been through.
And what's interesting too is in the book Dark Disciple, which is a string of it's a book, but it was supposed to be an episode arc on Clone Wars. When Clone Wars got canceled, they decided to make it into a book so that way they could tell the story of Asajj. And in that book, it kind of goes a little bit more into this. So, like, when he was training her, he never took her back to the temple. Like, he was assigned somewhere on an outpost type thing, and he just trained her, like, there. Like, never really took her back to the temple. So she never really had, like, the formal Jedi training at the temple. She was being, like, trained outside of that. That's also where you kind of learn more of the issues with her slave upbringing when she was sold into slavery. But yeah, so then the Nightsisters are going to help her. They're going to turn her invisible with this spell, and they're going to send her to go kill Dooku. She asked for help. They're going to help her. So we have her and 2 other Nightsisters that go and attack Dooku, who, by the way, is sleeping like a psycho above the covers. Do you ever do this, Logan? Are you a sleep above the covers type of guy?
No, that's some like psychotic, yeah, what do they call sociopathic behavior?
When I saw that, I was like, I
Crazy
get it
man.
was probably animation thing, so he could spring up easier or something. I don't know, but I was like, what is he? He's just sleeping, and he looks like he's dead. Like he's like
Yeah, I was gonna
got
say
his
he looks very Egyptian. Like that how
yeah,
Jedi sleep.
like a mummy being
Yeah,
placed. Yeah,
that's how they sleep.
doesn't look very comfy. Looks like he's in a casket. um, yeah, just Dooku, a psycho. They shoot him with a dart, which I guess is supposed to make him like drowsy, knock him out. It does not work, by the way. He gets like he wakes up swinging, right? He wakes up swinging.
He woke
He
up and
says,
chose violence. That's what he did.
"Yeah, if you're a Gen
Yeah,
Z,
there you go,
uh,
listener.
we're converting our speak into your
Yes,
language." Um, I like this line here. He's like, "I do not need my eyes to see you, Jedi." Thinking that, of course, it's a Jedi. She's got a blue lightsaber in this attack. The other Night Sisters have green, so it kind of helps Dooku think that this is a Jedi attack. He fights all 3 of these. He does lose, or acts to lose. He pulls the Palpatine from Episode 3, actually, where he is up against it. Mace Windu about to swing at Palpatine. He uses the Force Lightning. It's very similar. Asajj is about to swing. Dooku uses the Force Lightning and just chucks them out of the window with a Force push. Just like Mace Windu. I mean, really, this is a very paralleled thing. Maybe Katie Lucas was I don't know, maybe it's something about the Lucases and Force Lightning and shoving people out of windows, but they seem to like that. Did I ever tell you the story behind that, by the way?
of
My
what?
relationship with this scene of forcing Mace Windu out of the window.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So my friend Jimmy and I, back in before Revenge of the Sith, between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, we would be playing. As nerdy as this sounds, we're like 12, playing with lightsabers outside all the time, and we'd be making up our own plot lines, doing stuff like that, like you're one to do as a kid. And there was a time where we were just as jokes, we joked about Palpatine or somebody, I forget if we had it as Palpatine or not, force pushing Mace Windu out of a window in Coruscant. And Yoda, we did this bad Yoda impression, acting like, yeah, Yoda made some sort of quip after Mace Windu gets thrown out of this window. Probably 2 years later, a year or 2 years later, we sit down to watch Revenge of the Sith in theaters. And like the first thing we think when we get out of there, because we didn't see it together, but like, we're like, George Lucas ripped us off. We had that. That was our
Yeah,
thing. So it's funny. There was a few things like that we come up with as jokes that then
yeah,
actually made its way into Star Wars, and we'd be like, "Is George Lucas bugging the place?"
yeah. I just picture you and him sitting in a sandbox, and I don't like sand. It's coarse. Just
Yeah,
I
exactly.
just pictured you guys now sitting. I'm saying.
I'm trying to remember what the other ones were, but like, okay, the other one. So this also happens in episode 3. When we were playing with the lightsabers, we did the whole like force push at the same time, and where it doesn't do anything, and then Obi-Wan and Anakin do that in Revenge of the Sith. We came out of that movie thinking George Lucas had bugged his house
Yep.
because we did
So
that.
so ultimately, you get some of the you're
I get
expecting
some of the royalties.
royalties from George.
I'm sure other people have thought of this, like especially the force push thing. I'm sure people had thought of that before. The Mace Windu out of the window thing, though, I think we did that. Oh, the Yoda quip was something about how Windu sounds like window or something. I think
Yeah.
that's why we made the joke, and I think that's what we did. But yeah. Anyway, a little tangent there. Um, they go back home defeated, and Mother Talzin calls Dooku, and she's going to offer up a mail from Dathomir, and this is their new plan. And this kind of goes into the second episode of the batch here called Monster. Disney Plus synopsis: Count Dooku wants a deadlier apprentice. This was directed by Kyle Dunleavy, written by Katie Lucas, and premiered January 14th, 2011 on the Cartoon Network. Dooku still thinks it's the Jedi that attacked, so he wants a new apprentice. He's like, I need a new bodyguard, I need a new assassin type of thing. He goes to Dathomir. Dooku wants help from the Nightsisters to take out the Jedi, and she's like, no, like, I'm just fine doing this. It's pretty much Mother Talzin's like, no, not doing that. She says, I hope our paths never cross again after this. Some pretty strong words from Mother Talzin. She mentions Darth Maul and that a few still remain from his bloodline. And she also mentions that men are easier to acquire, harder to control. So I believe it's her that said that. Maybe Asajj says it. But Asajj goes to pick the men. They have to go through 3 tests. Really going to be 4 tests when we get to the end of this. The men attack Asajj, but she wins. She, I guess, picks a few of these people to move on. And we see 2 people one named Farrell and one named Savage are the main 2 that we follow through this. And they're both Zabraks, like Maul is. The third challenge, it's just Farrell and Savage. And they try to stick together to work as a team. While Asajj is choking Farrell, Savage saves him. And he's like, hey, take me, not him. Very like noble. Take me instead of my brother. These are brothers. They do some magic, right? And they make Savage like this monster, huge, hulking. Like even his horns grow a bit, right? His shoulders are bigger. He's taller. And the final test, they bring in a prisoner, and it is his brother Farrell. And Savage like doesn't really recognize him, right? Like it's just like he is transfixed, right? Like he is being controlled. And she tells Savage to kill him, and he does. Really messed up. What was your thoughts on being introduced to Farrell and Savage and seeing these 4 tests that Savage has to go through?
This is the part that blew my mind. One, I didn't know that we were going to get Zabraks, and I was like, okay, I didn't know that Darth Maul had like a species. I assumed he was a species, but I assumed there weren't very many like him. So to get to Dathomir and have him have this exist, and then to have the Nightsisters be kind of like these witches that they're basically like they just train these warriors, and I don't know, in very Frankenstein-esque ways, they make this huge monster in Savage. And then to see the younger brother is so sad looking whenever the older brother gets taken away. Like, and you can tell that Farrell's not necessarily the strongest, but survives because he's smarter and he thinks things through. Whereas Savage is more of the brass and the
The brute.
muscle. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then and then at the end, like this final test and to survive with the Asajj Ventress basically running all of these. You're like, okay, well, and to think that they were killing them all, I was like, oh my gosh, like they don't care about these things at all. Like they don't care about Zabraks at all. They're just killing each other. So they're just like, monsters pit up against each other. But yeah, no, that this this is all like, gosh, this is dark. These Nightsisters are no joke. So I really enjoyed. I just loved all these twists in these episodes.
Yeah, and what was your thoughts when they mentioned Darth Maul? Like you said that you didn't think he had like family and stuff, but like when they just mentioned the name Darth Maul, and you're like, oh, like because you know that he comes in this show. So like,
Yeah,
did you think that was leading to
I
his
thought they were going to
return
go
in this?
find him. Yeah, I thought they were going to go find him,
Hmm.
or like had found him and he was healing from being sliced in half. But yeah, I thought he was alive. And this is where we're going to get to see him. But then twists come later, and you're like, what? So yeah, this is great. And then to think that Savage is out there and roaming around with the yeah, this is wild. Like, did not
Yeah,
expect
and
this at
it
all.
and I guess Maul is actually his name, right? Because like
Yeah,
usually like Darth is not their name, like Darth
right.
Vader, Darth Sidious, Darth Tyrannus. But his brothers are literally called Savage and Feral.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like Maul, Feral, Savage, pronounced Savage. Like
Yeah,
it definitely seems like that is a theme in their area. I guess Maul is his actual like birth name.
right.
Um, Dooku sends Savage to a Jedi temple to kill Jedi and the Republic soldiers. Savage arrives and just wrecks his way through, easily kills the two Jedi, and Dooku doesn't learn from his mistake with Ventress, with Palpatine. He pretty much makes it clear to Savage, hey, we're going to rule together. We're going to take out Palpatine. We're going to rule
Hmm.
the galaxy. So we do know that this is Dooku's ultimate plan, which is kind of what we would think, right? Especially in Attack of the Clones when he talks to Obi-Wan, when Obi-Wan's captured, and he mentions like, I trained Qui-Gon. He was your master, blah blah blah. He's like, rule there's a leader of the Sith in the Republic. Join me, we can rule together, is kind of what he says to Obi-Wan. And it's like this is always his plan. His plan was to always try to take out Palpatine at some point, but he just sucked at it.
This is the cis thing though, because Vader tries to do the same thing with Luke. Like,
Yeah, that's what they're
join me.
supposed to do. They're supposed to, with the rule of two,
Yeah.
at one point, they're supposed to be able to kill their master so they can fully come to the dark side and then raise their own uh, apprentice who then is supposed to kill them. And yeah.
Somebody needs to sit down with the Sith and explain how numbers work.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
You will never win if you, no, but
Yeah.
they do win.
I was gonna say they kill a ton of Jedi, so they kind of equal the playing
They,
field.
yeah, they kind of had,
There's even a
they kind of
last
had their
Jedi.
cake and ate it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next episode was season 3, episode 14, Witches of the Mist, directed by Giancarlo Volpe, written by Katie Lucas, and premiered January 21st, 2011. Disney Plus synopsis: Anakin and Obi-Wan are on the trail of Dooku's new apprentice. Picks up right where we left off. They bring the bodies of the Jedi that Savage just killed back to the Jedi. Obi-Wan says that this is not a work of a Sith Lord, but a reckless animal. Savage and Dooku are training, and Savage is like, just like you said, he's the brute. He's not planning out his attacks, and Dooku's like, "You suck, dude. I'm easily beating you." Yoda and Mace show Obi-Wan the surveillance footage of the attack. I like this scene a lot. Obi-Wan's like, "Darth Maul? I killed him." And little did he know he didn't. But it is funny that his first thought was like, "This is Darth Maul," and they're like, "No, this is actually not Darth Maul. You idiot. He's got yellow instead of red face." Um, but they say it is somebody that looks like him. They are on Dathomir. Go see who it can be. So they send Obi-Wan and Anakin out to go uh, find who it could be. We get more force training with Savage as he's trying to lift like these pillars and all that kind of stuff. Obi-Wan and Anakin arrive and the Zabraks attack them. They, surrender. They say Mother Talzin would know. So they go over to Mother Talzin, and Mother Talzin talks to them and says that Savage is on Toydaria. So Dooku is sending Savage to get the king on Toydaria. who we like kicked off this whole thing with. Like, he was one of the first episodes that we talked about chronologically. I think it was like the third batch of episodes where
Mhm.
he was kind of on the border of joining either Separatists or the Republic, and Yoda convinces him to join the Republic side of it. This is the one where Dooku's trying to, like, kill all these uh, people and kill Yoda, and Yoda makes it through that planet with all of these clone troopers and all that kind of stuff. Ambush is what it was called. But so we've seen him a few times, because they also, I believe this is the same. I think Toydaria is where we had the whole Jar Jar episode with Bail Organa and Jar Jar coming to make peace with the Toydarians as well. Well, Dooku says, "Go get the king. Kill anybody else but the king." And Savage is like, "Got it. Kill the king." And Savage goes to capture the Toydarian king. And Mother Talzin goes to Asajj and says, "All right, the Jedi are kind of onto this right now. We don't have a lot of time. You have to do this plan if you're doing this plan to kill Dooku." And Asajj is a little apprehensive. She says he's not ready yet. Like, he's not fully there yet. He's not powerful enough to take on Dooku. And we know that's true because we've seen Dooku training him, and Savage is not doing well. We get Savage arriving on Toydaria. He starts cutting them down. He's got a double blade like Maul. What'd you think of that?
Yeah, I was like, well, that's kind of cool because it his whatever he is to him. I mean, we find out, but to
Brother.
have such similarities with Maul, he's much bigger
Without
than
knowing
Maul.
it.
Yeah, but yeah, this was
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
that was
much bigger,
not,
though, because they, like,
yeah, they basically made him the Hulk.
magic steroids.
Right? Yeah, he's got PEDs. He's got to sit out the season.
Yeah. Just in time for baseball season.
Right.
Savage does capture the king. Obi-Wan and Anakin arrive, and while he's fighting Obi-Wan and Anakin, he's trying to keep the king there, and then he's just like, forget it, and, like, snaps his neck. I felt bad
Like
that
a
this is
bug.
the end of the king. We've seen him in like 3 arcs, and this is how he dies. And then he's just, I was thinking about how funny this is because it's a cartoon. He's just dragging this
him.
lifeless body back
Yep.
to the ship. And then when he lands, he's like dragging it to Dooku
Yep.
and just like chucks it over to him. And Dooku's like, "You imbecile. You killed
idiot.
the king.
Right.
That's the one thing I told you not to do."
Right.
Obi-Wan and Anakin, like, take off. They escape. Okay, so Savage is going to okay, Dooku uses Force Lightning on Savage. Ventress then appears, and he's like, "Oh, great, Savage, kill Ventress." And Ventress activates, like, the brainwashing and is like, "No, you're with me." And they end up tag teaming Dooku. And we have 5 red blades fighting here, because you got Dooku with 1, Savage with a double blade, and Asajj with 2, and Savage with, see, it's throwing me off here.
Say
Savage
those
with
two
a
names
double
fast.
blade.
Yeah.
Pretty cool fight scene here. I don't think we've ever seen
Really
this many
cool.
red blades in one scene before.
Yeah, no, I'm digging that. I was like, more of that, please. So I'm hoping there's, what would that be then? There's 5. There'd be 7 if a certain brother would join, if he still has his double blade. So
Yeah, that would be a fun double
just a
battle,
bunch of
huh?
Sith Lords like just going at it.
Yeah, that is we'll see if we get there at some point. I mean, we will get there, but Darth Maul and Savage tag teaming will happen at some point. Savage starts force choking both Asajj and Dooku. Dooku escapes. Ventress follows. Obi-Wan and Anakin arrive. Savage just, like, blows past them. Ventress and Dooku fight. Dooku force lightnings her again. She escapes. She's like, All right, I'm taking the escape pod. I'm out of here. Dooku tells the droids to destroy Savage. Savage escapes. During this time, by the way, Obi-Wan and Anakin are like taking out the droids and are like, they're attacking Savage, so maybe we can just get out of here. And then Savage escapes. Savage goes to Mother Talzin, and he's like, who will train me? And she mentions, you have a brother who lives in the Outer Rim. And in her crystal ball is an image of Darth Maul. And she says, here's your compass. This will lead you right to him. Pretty good cliffhanger here, ending that.
Pretty good. I was like, gosh, this was. And I got chills when I saw Darth because I was like, I knew he was alive, but I'm just excited to see him again because he was so good in Phantom Menace.
Yeah, we still got a bit.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to. While it will happen in season 4, I believe, it takes a bit to get to that. Unfortunately, because it is such a good arc, but it's like a end of season 4 type of thing. Yeah, and that's our episodes here. I would say, I know we kind of stopped doing this, but I think, Logan, I think this might be my favorite week of episodes so far.
Yep. This was number 1 right away. Like I was like into the second episode going, this has easily kept my attention like way more. And actually wants me like it had me craving more of this storyline. Continuation of Savage, Asajj, Dooku, and Darth, and all the other characters that have confusing names. But if I had to rank, this is definitely this is the top. This is sitting as the king of the hill so far.
That's a different show.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we'll get into that one. We'll get into that rewatch. I think that follows.
Damn it, Bobby.
That follows Rebels, right? That's after.
Yes.
Is that in that arc? Okay.
Yeah, no, this is definitely up there as the best week, and strong episodes. Take a bow, Katie Lucas. Can we get her writing some more stuff?
I was gonna say,
now
just
that
pass it down to
even
Katie.
Though George is gone, like I mean, he's not gone. I mean,
Jeez,
gone
dude,
from Star Wars. He's alive still.
He's alive.
But yeah, if we could get her.
Did you ever see the meme going around? It was like a picture. I think it was one of the cast members that works in, I want to say like Living with the Land or something, looks just like George Lucas, and people are like convinced it's him. I'll have to see if I can find it. It's like some I might not be Living with the Land, but it's a random ride or attraction.
I would love if that was, where he would fit right in is Frontierland, because he wears plaid.
Yeah.
Like the Frontierland costume, if you had George Lucas in it, he'd be like, oh, I love it.
Yeah.
It's the best place.
Yep.
I would love that. Like, he sold Star Wars for $4 billion. He's like,
yeah,
I just love Big Thunder.
Yeah, Big Thunder guy. Yep. Loading the queue.
Next week we have a batch of episodes that people have said is the best of the best. We'll see what you think about it. But this is a huge episode for the lore of Star Wars, these 3 episodes. The lore of the Force really ties into the Ahsoka series as well. So I'll point out some of the little stuff that we saw in Ahsoka that matters with this arc. But if you ever heard of it, it's called the Mortis arc, and people have talked this thing up a lot. Usually makes a lot of top lists when you're talking about arcs in the Clone Wars. So does this one that we just talked about. But they're on a roll right now with season 3, which has definitely been upping the quality of the show. And season 3 is definitely up there for best season so far. I mean, we only have it feels like we just finished season 2. We only have 3 weeks of season 3 left. We're flying.
We really are.
flying through it. So yes, next episodes that we're talking about: season 3, episode 15; season 3, episode 16; season 3, episode 17, called Overlords, Altar of Mortis, Ghost of Mortis. Those are the episodes we are watching next. It is the Mortis arc, written by Christian Taylor, who's also done work on Lost, 6 Feet Under, a few different TV shows that we'll be talking about. But really huge arc for Force type stuff, focused on our core 3 of Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka, getting the gang back together for this next batch of episodes. Really looking forward to it and seeing what your thoughts on that will be. And then, like I said, then we only have 2 more weeks of season 3 after that. So we're doing well. We are moving on through. Just want to plug some stuff here. By now, our High Republic Road to the Acolyte series is going through. Those episodes are dropping around Fridays, so make sure you check out those Friday drops for that as we build up to the June 4th premiere of The Acolyte, where we'll have our coverage here on the Podawakens. You can contact us at Podawakens on all of our social medias or email us podawakens@gmail.com. Like and subscribe to us here on the YouTube channel, or subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, where you can also rate and review the podcast, that it helps other people find us. Logan, any closing thoughts on this batch of episodes before we wrap it up?
I think you're right in saying that the season 3 is strong and probably the strongest of the show, I think, so far. And from what I've heard about this series, is it keeps getting better and it doesn't stop. So if this is just kind of a the baseline, I'm really excited for what's coming and kind of that climactic end of what this show is. But my goodness, I'll say it every time that you ask. I'm so happy that I've gone back and watched this, because I've always heard good things about it, and then I hear great things about Rebels as well. So I'm excited that we're plunging in deep. We're in deep, Jordan. We're getting through. So I can't believe we're already almost halfway through. So that's kind of insane.
I think we're
Close,
about
right?
halfway now, because
Yeah.
it's like 40. Maybe not episode wise, but week wise. There's
Mhm.
43 weeks. We just did week 21.
So
So
yeah, just under half.
we're
Yeah.
right around halfway. By the time we record next time, it'll be about
Yeah.
halfway. Yeah, right for that Mortis arc, which will be a good arc to celebrate that. All right, yeah, I'm glad you're watching the show too. I'm glad that you decided to watch and that you're getting to experience some of these new Star Wars stories, and that you're forcing me to rewatch this, because I've been wanting to rewatch this, and it's been just one of those things where it's like life gets in the way. But you
Yeah.
see, having a podcast kind of forces me. Like, I wanted to watch X-Men the animated series.
Yeah.
I'd watched it before growing up, but I was like, I need to rewatch it. Well, doing a podcast about X-Men 97, a continuation of that, was like the kick in the butt I needed. That I was like, I had to binge watch that in a month to get 75 episodes to like prepare for the new season. So sometimes it's the kick in the butt you need to be able to get through it. Reading some of the High Republic books, that I love the High Republic, but I didn't read some of like the younger adult ones or like the middle grade ones. People picking those to talk about for the podcast, I was like, dang, I have to read them. So it's like really been the kick in the butt I've needed to experience more and more of the Star Wars universe that I've been wanting to dip my toes into. But yeah, so thank you all for watching and listening. We will catch you next time when we talk the Mortis arc.